The power of reading and writing needs to be studied because you can spend the same amount of time here and get two extremely different results in what you're going to achieve. Granted, a phone, as I'm holding here, can do an infinite number of things, but our own creativity can offer the same amount, if not more, through the simple book in our hands. I've been doing an interesting activity this past week, and that is not reading. I know it's shameful to say as the author I am, but I have been distracted as a reader. I'm close to finishing this book called How to Read a Book, and my problem with that is that I noticed that even though I use it to base many of these videos off, I've been slowly running out of ideas that often make me lose myself in the process. In all actuality, that is far from the case, but I've been noticing a lot of things in my own life that go hand in hand to why reading and writing are potent to me. And in this video, I want to discuss how those said changes make me realize that reading and writing is something everyone needs to do and why we need more of them and not less. Going back to the topic of me not reading this week, it's the reason why I haven't been so focused on the act of trying to consume more. It's because I've been writing so much. I've been doing all the things such as reviewing music in my free time, so I've been writing essays about that, as well as writing in my book, something I do for a living, both of which are important to me. But the thing that I've considered most is dialogue, the consistent aspect of storytelling, and why all this matters and more. I love talking about this personally is because I find the topic so interesting. But from an outside perspective, for someone who doesn't read or write as much, this is a very convoluted and complex topic. Yes, you may consume a piece of media with dialogue or consume a book that is nonfiction and get two widely different results. The point I'm trying to make from this statement is that these different ways of consumption are important to why reading is valuable in this day and age. I've gone on and on about the value of reading, but to sum it up, I believe reading's purpose now is to, one, teach you patience above all, but two, give you the willpower and the energy to learn something new. The problem with many of us, especially those outside the school education system or on break, is that we consider the act of learning a bad thing. Learning itself isn't bad. Learn is an anagram for my name after all, and as someone who loves myself, I love learning. It's important to me because I believe that the more we learn, the more we research on a topic, the more we experiment on different ideas, the better our outcomes become. And that is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than simply doing something fun. Fun is the most important thing we can do in our lives. It's having fun and doing what it takes to live the most fulfilling life we can. But for progress to work, you have to expand your fun. You have to make it not only consistent, but also simple. And that is where reading and writing comes in. In the past 3 years of my life, I've noticed that both of these actions are the reasons why I continue to do the things I do. I stay healthy because I want to be able to value my body more, which is something I've learned through excessive reading and knowledge. I've been wanting to focus a lot on health, but I do this by writing down what I need and so on. Both of these actions are valuable depending on what kind of thing you want, whether it's more money, more health, more muscle. All of this and more is important to consider, especially for the average person. That then begs the question why no one advocates for reading and writing in this day and age. And the problem is, once again, this. This may seem simple and tacky to say, but phones are something that can take away from us rather than add. I can't be too hypocritical because I'm currently reviewing one of my clients' books through my phone, and it's been one of the best experiences I've had. So that begs the question, what's the problem? And the reason why is because I can confidently say that books and writing is hard. Just like the gym or trying to stay healthy or even learning to that extent, we see it as this mind-boggling, often stingy thing. That's the reason why many people put down school, because it's focused less on learning and more about grades. But that's besides the point. For books, people see it as this nerdy, often outcasted thing that results in people choosing to ignore books and do the more fun thing that would in turn result to more progress. This can either be for good, such as going to the gym, socializing with others, or even getting good sleep, to other things such as taking drugs, playing video games, or constantly overstimulating yourself that you're not having fun in the process. I believe we need more readers and writers because this world is so impatient with the things we have. We are so overstimulated by this. And that's not even an opinion, this is just facts. I've noticed in my life and all the other people in my life that this right here, the technology we have, can be used for good, but the problem now becomes that we are spending so much time on it, so much time on the internet, that my mind and many people's minds will become lost in translation. But that doesn't have to be the case. I remember when I was researching topics for my third novel, I had so much fun researching all of it that I vividly remember all the websites I went through, the books I was reading at the time, and ultimately it led me to the solutions and the outcomes that that book ultimately tries to solve. My favorite thing about being a writer is having the ability to consume a piece of media that isn't just books or writing. And the reason why I say this is because even though this video is all about promoting books and writing, I do want to bring up the topic of movies and TV shows and music, because someone out there will argue and say that those things are just as important, if not more, to which I disagree. Why I value writing and reading above all is because of this. Our minds have this unique ability to visualize creativity. I can say the color red and you can visualize how it looks like. I can say the color pink and you can visualize how it looks like. It's not hard to do those things. That doesn't make us special, but what does make us special is our own perspective on said creativity. I imagined when I was writing my third novel that many people won't enjoy the ending that I originally proposed. If you want to read that novel, you could check it on the top link of the description, but I want to talk about it here because this was the single most important moment for me as a writer. When I started working on my third novel, and when I started finishing it up by the end of October, going into November, many things changed about it. There are our 4 core characters throughout the story, all of which leading down to only choosing one to ultimately win this game that I proposed. It's a reality TV show for a reason, and one of these 4 has to win. But the problem is they've went through so much and they don't feel the need to get someone out. They already know who the true villain is and want to escape the situation. That is where I changed the outcome, because there were originally 3 outcomes that I had in mind. First, they either all vote out to leave and that's how it ends. Second, they all vote someone out and only one person remains. Or the third and final option, they all collectively lose in regards to the fact that the main villain chooses someone to win his game. It's an interesting dynamic that I considered a while back, and one that I thought long and hard about. I had that specific ending of them all losing for a few months back in the summer of 2025, but then it wasn't until that end of October approach where I slowly realized what would be the best ending. When I was consuming media at the time, the movies, the TV shows, and the music, all of which contained this bleak outlook or a hopeful ending that felt so uncanny and unnatural. All of it felt forced at the time, and one of the biggest examples was Squid Game, with how the story ended on such a terrifying and sad note. Yes, it's realistic, but what the hell's the point of a story if you're not going to gain a positive momentum or a positive effect from the information you gathered? So when I was considering the ending, the thing people will remember the most, I changed it to have all the characters win in exchange for the consequences they had to endure, some of which better than others, some that got the best ending that they can. But I believed with such a character-driven story, I wanted to make the ending as powerful as it is. And now thinking about it, currently, I am satisfied with what I created. It is easily my favorite change I've ever done as an author, and it's one that I feel many people will resonate with. If we have the ability to channel all of these human emotions and human thoughts all onto a single page or a single thing we have to write, then I'm certain that is more than enough to change the world. That is why I believe with books, no matter what kind of book, from the Bible all the way to the weirdest romantic comedy you can read, all of it will teach you a specific lesson that you can either take away from or change yourself. You aren't forced to read a specific book. I'm just explaining what I've written before, but all these examples and more are important to realize why books and readers themselves should be important in this day and age. And as for writing, you should understand that writing is an act where you can remember. It's a time machine that takes us back to a period of our lives that will indicatively improve us or makes us realize a different perspective based on the experiences we have lived. We aren't special in the fact that we do something cool or we learn something new, but we are special for the perspective that we give. And as such, understand that your perspective is important to realizing why we need creativity now more than ever before. I've been seeing this thing on TikTok where so many people are reading all these classic books. They're going back to all the biggest ones, such as The Great Gatsby or The Catcher in the Rye, Of Mice and Men to Pride and Prejudice. And some of those books I haven't read yet, but the thing that irritates me most is how it's so similar to music discourse, where people, when they're getting back into literature or trying to write literature, immediately try copying the biggest and most popular stories to ever exist. There's a reason why so many people reference the Bible, even with its more spiritual verses and tendencies, because of how much influence it has. It's not a bad thing to try referencing the biggest things you know, but you should understand that with literature, there is so much information out there. You shouldn't try to limit yourself to one particular story or one particular idea. It's so easy to lose yourself in the process that way. When I tried to write my first novel, for example, I focused so much on the things I liked that I didn't try focusing all too much on the things I dislike. And this is an important distinction you should make, because the things you dislike are things that you should stray away from. For me, I don't enjoy people who take their lives so unserious. They don't put in the hard work, they don't put in the effort, they don't do what they appear as slobbish and often needy. And that's my biggest problem with today's world. It's so immediate and clicky that the problem that I have, where if I want to grow, I need to do this exact metric, is utter BS. So what I want to do as a reader and writer is to slow down. Because by the end of the day, books are there to teach us patience. It's not just about trying to gather the best idea and tell the absolute most perfect story. You can if you want, but use my books, for example. They are fantastic, and I believe they will sell one day. That quote I've heard from one of my friends was about how books themselves can evolve and change with us, but if it's truly good, people will read it. And that should be the case whether you are a reader or a writer. But for me, I believe you should be both, because your ability to consume and create go equally hand in hand. I was only able to tell that fantastic ending only with the sources that I was gathering. I had to see what I didn't want from my story, see what worked in the stories I'm taking inspiration of, and write to the best of my ability. This isn't a video to put down books or make books less organic than it is. It's already a hard task. Like going to the gym, there's so many layers and logistics to how a book should be formatted. And often, many readers and writers are so intellectual and pretentious that I hate them. I hope you aren't one of those people, but you should have some humor in your story. You should be able to laugh at a good line or find amazement in what you're reading, because if you aren't going to feel the emotions of the literary books you are consuming, or even taking the information from a practical book, then what's the point of reading for you? You're only watching this video to understand that books are important, which I assume you would know, but understand with the perspective now that books are valuable for you and your perspective. Your perspective, you yourself, are someone who should take this video away as an important notion to write, to read, or to do both, one of which that you haven't done in a hot minute. Going back to the very beginning of this video, I knew that that period where I stopped reading this past week has been one that defined how I was living. I was way more tired, a lot more anxious, and extremely disgusted with how I was living for a while. But then I started getting back into reading, and I feel a lot more light and a lot less pressure on me. And it's helpful because reading one of my clients' books, she made this fantastic burst of short stories, all of which have these things that can be both pros and cons, but comes out as a fantastic, wonderful experience that many I find will relate to. I'm hoping to make a video about it one day on this channel, but regardless, I should take the notion that books themselves aren't just a device that you should hold quite like a phone. Like a phone, as a matter of fact, it has an infinite number of possibilities, and it's black and white to describe it as a bad or good thing. What books are is to teach you something, whether it's good or not. There will be those challenging books that you despise and hate, and others that you love and appreciate. So use both to the best of your ability to create the best kind of writing and reading you possibly can. Thank you for watching this video. Use this information wisely to continue inspiring others. The reason why this video feels a bit more disjointed than I wished was because this video already taken me a couple hours to record, and the previous attempt had a buggy mic, so it's strapped to my chest this time. But overall, I love sharing knowledge to the internet, and I hope you can use this information to the best and worst of your abilities. Check out my Instagram down the top, link in the description, if you want personal help to write your own book, along with my own books down there as well. I am Arnel Arcega, and until next time, keep on reading, keep on writing, and take care.